Welcome to Dominate Your Day podcast. This is the podcast that adds value to leaders who want to make a difference in the workplace. We believe each person is unique and has a purpose they can live out every day and make an impact in the world. Here at Dominate Your Day podcast, we hear stories from leaders who have used their unique talents to transform themselves and their companies from the inside out.
Welcome back to Dominate Your Day. I have a guest here who's probably done something that I don't know too many of you have done. I know I've never done it. It's Kelly Majdan, and she is an author, speaker, and a wellness advisor. But one of the things that she and her husband have discovered is the world of obstacle course races. And she's going to talk to us today about how that relates to life, to wellness, and to our whole well-being. So welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Dan. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your guests. This is great.
Well, yes. And so, Kelly, just this year, you had a book come out called Lessons from the Obstacle Course, 5 Strategies to Conquer the Muddy Fields of Life. So tell us about that and how you got to writing this book.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. So back in 2014, we discovered my husband had something called a pineal gland cystic mass sitting in the middle of his brain. So he was like, how does that lead to a book, right? Well, after he had brain surgery and he was on his bed recovering, I had a few friends from work who came up to me and says, hey, Kelly, let's come join us and let's do this warrior dash. Because I knew, we had young kids at the time and we were both recovering. My back went out on me while I was taking care of him. And I'm like, okay, sure, let's do this. But I didn't ask him what it was. I was like, sure, let's just jump. I just jumped. I said, sure, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And then I was like, wait a minute. A couple of days later, I said, can you explain to me what a warrior dash is? Because this is like, I looked it up and went, what did I just sign up for? So, but it was a ton of fun. We went out to this dusty field outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was about a group of maybe about 12 of us. And of course, my husband couldn't do it because he was recovering. Our kids were too young, but they did come out as well to cheer us on. And as we went through it, and I mean, it was a muddy, like the Warrior Dash was a really muddy 3-mile 5K and about 25 obstacles. I mean, I had just the most fun. It was just fun to just push yourself and to try it and to kind of push the yuck factor. And as we got done with this and my husband and the kids were watching, my husband being the Marine, he was like, I want to do one of those. So he was, again, remember, he was recovering from brain surgery still, but that really kind of like gave him that spark to say, okay, I'm really going to push forward through my recovery. Like it's like with a lot of us, we need that thing to really push us to do the things we need to do to recover from whatever setback it is. And so that's really the start of our obstacle course journey. And that just kind of became a thing that we did. And we are still doing. In fact, we just completed the Spartan Trifecta this past October, which is 3 races in 1 weekend.
Oh, wow.
So it's a challenge and it's fun. And the thing that's really great about it, there's a couple things. One, we're in our 50s and I am healthier than I have ever been. So it's been part of that thing to support our health and keep us moving forward. But 2, it's just also taught me a lot of life lessons. And that's really where the book and the genesis of the book came from, because as I went back and analyzed some of the struggles in my mindset that I had on getting over some of the obstacles, I realized it's like, oh my gosh, that's what I've had to do in life. And some of the same strategies that I use mentally to get through the obstacle courses, not just physically, but mentally, because a lot of it is a mental game, I've used to get through obstacles that we've had in our life. And so that's the genesis of the book, and that's what the book is about as we cover the 5 strategies.
So Kelly and I talked both in the green room before we got started, and I learned that she has some unique strengths that some of the similar ones that I do. So when Kelly, you have Activator, and when you said, I just said, sure, I'll do that race, and you didn't even know what it was, that's Activator in action. As a Clifton string. Yep, there's Activator. And you can just see that, which is great. And the positivity part of it, that you have, but also you're futuristic because you were talking, as you talked about it, and then your husband got him involved, gave him something to look forward to. That was a mission, something we can get going when we have some kind of view of where we want to be and what we want to be doing. And it sounds like that was a part of your story. What were some of the lessons that you learned that you share in your book that you think would be great takeaways for our audience today?
Oh, absolutely. There's quite a few. So the overarching lessons that I discuss in the book are 5. It's recovery, discovery, persistency, creativity, and collaboration. And I kind of break it down into each one of them. In recovery, just like we talked about here, that futuristic, I think a lot of times for us to be able to connect and do the things we need to do to achieve some of our goals in life, we've got to connect with what that means to us. And then we have to set a path forward in order to make those happen. So I think, and of course as we're recording this, I know this will come out later, but it's at the beginning of towards the beginning of the year, and everybody's starting to think about what is their life going to look like over this next year. Those are some of those goals. But then also it's the little mini goals that will help you achieve the small things in life. So it's whether you're trying to recover from maybe a setback. It's what can you do to set yourself a goal forward and then do the steps that it's going to take you to get to that goal. So it gives you something to focus on, and it gives you a plan and a path to follow. So that's part of that whole recovery standpoint that you can utilize in your life as well. Not to mention downtime. I think we all need a little downtime as well too. And that's a big part of physical recovery.
So when you're preparing for an obstacle race, I mean, the only thing I've done is a marathon years ago, but I knew there was a lot of prep work, a lot of training. Is there much training and downtime, actually doing the obstacle course and then preparing for it and then afterwards?
Well, there is. There's a lot, because each race can be up to, there's one race that's 50 miles long. So if you really think of an obstacle course, it's a run. It's a 5K, 10K, half marathon with just, you've got to go through some obstacles along the way. So it's more of a running race with some obstacles, and you're having to run through the woods. So with that, there's a lot of training that does go into it, and physical training. And that's been a great thing, I guess, again, for us from a personal standpoint, is that it gives us the commitment that we need to stay with our health goals throughout the year. So we scatter these courses throughout the year, these challenges throughout the year, so we have something to keep going towards. I'm one of those individuals that, and you just kind of have to identify that within yourself, but I am definitely one of those individuals. If I don't have something on the calendar to work towards, then I kind of let myself off the hook. And I don't want to let myself off the hook, so I always put these on my calendar. So that's just strategy you can use in that respect. And that's one thing I talk about in that recovery section of the book.
How do you get yourself healthy for a race? I mean, it sounds like you're doing it all the time. It's just a way of life for you, but in developing a wellness plan. But what you mentioned talking about being your own health detective, how do you get yourself mentally, physically ready for a race? And then how do you be that health detective?
So there's kind of 2 factors there. So first off, let's talk a little bit about how you get yourself ready for the race. You need to know what the race is about. So again, with anything in life, what are we accomplishing, or what is the objective of the race? So when we were one of the races that we do, it's the Spartan Beast, and it's basically a half marathon with about 35 obstacles, 35, right around there.
Oh, wow.
So you've got to run. So it's a matter of putting the running schedule in, and then we've set up our set. So we do our strength and running throughout the week in small bits, but then the Saturdays are always our big long days. So we usually, and this actually came out of the pandemic, and I talk about this in the book about creativity, is, we had a lot of races scheduled the year of the pandemic. And of course, with everything got canceled. And of course, I'm not going to cry about a virtual race being canceled, because that was like a little pin drop compared to everything else that happened. But they did put together these little virtual schedules. So again, it's making lemon out of lemonade, but this also became our strategy for training is breaking the race down into your training into, I'm going to run a mile or two, and then I'm going to come back. So we kind of loop back to our garage and do some body weight or exercises. And then we do a few more runs, and then of body weights and exercises, and kind of work all of our body parts that are going to be needed. So you can utilize that tactic for anything in life when you're trying to be creative about how can you break it down into small pieces so that you can accomplish the goal. And how do you, what does the goal look like? What do you objective you need to accomplish? Then what are the little pieces that you need to do? So that's how we broke down the training for the obstacle courses, depending on how long they were. And that would dictate how long our runs were. And then of course it's just, the health journey has been a big one that we've worked on for a while, because we had to get ourselves healthy. And I think there's, you and I, midlife, I already said I'm over 50. I have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And there was at one point in time, I know we're both in the Dallas area.
Yes.
The thing that hit me that really made me say, okay, I have really got to tune into what's going on with my health, because I think we all have this aha moment, and you just have to figure out, kind of tap into it. Is I almost fell asleep on the North Dallas Turnpike one afternoon. And it's like, that's a crazy road. You don't want to do that in Dallas. And as I sat in the parking lot waiting for my next meeting, I was sitting here going, okay, this is crazy. I'm coming up on my 50th, and I cannot live life like this. And it really made me take a step back and evaluate. And I sat there in my car doing the math. I'm like, okay, I had my daughter when I was 35. If she waits to have her daughter or son or whatever kids when she's 35, that puts me at 70 when I have grandkids. How do I want to show up? What kind of grandparent do I really want to be? And I'm like, I want to be the fun one. I want to be the one that's crawling around on the floor and having a great time with the kids, and hopefully still doing, no, not hopefully, I will be still doing obstacle courses. So, that really put a pause in my thought process and went, I know I'm working out, but I wasn't taking good care of my nutrition. And that made me go back to the drawing board and really work on my nutrition side. So sometimes you just need those little moments in life to just take that pause and evaluate where you are and really think through. It's that awareness piece. What is not working? Why is it not working? And what can I do about it? What little things, what tweaks do I need to make?
So I heard two pivoting moments so far in your life. I'm sure there were at least 25 or 30, but when your husband got sick and then your friends invited you to get into the obstacle course, and that changed a trajectory of you doing something with your body that became a fun thing that he could join you with later when he got well. And then also almost falling asleep on the tollway as you were driving, and really taking that moment to look back and see what was causing you to not, maybe you were working out on the outside, but not everything on the inside was just right. So how did you start that journey? I mean, so many people get stuck. They're listening to so many things. How did you get focused on that?
Well, and that was one thing that was your second part of the question that I didn't answer, was that being the health detective. And that's what I had to be. So really, I took a step back, and I was like, okay, what's going on? How am I eating? What am I feeling like? And that's when I started really kind of digging into the nutrition piece and looking through and listening to a lot of different things. I think in life too, I don't know whether this is a woman thing that we do, but we always try to grab that next fad diet or the next thing that we hope is going to work for us. And instead of doing that, because I've been doing that all my life, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, I actually decided to dive into the science behind what's behind keto, what's behind time-restricted eating, what does it make sense with your hormones. And this has been a complete journey that I have been going on, and I still look at it. And I think that's the point, what I mean about being your own health detective, along with a couple other things we found out with my husband, but is you've got to, I say, don't always take things at face value, and be willing to question a little bit, but don't let it stop you from actually implementing. Because the other part of it too is that you could overanalyze it and not actually jump in and try. You got to test some things as well too. And when you test some things, you've got to say, okay, this part of it worked, this part of it didn't. So continue to tweak and continue to look. Like keto and time restricted eating really works very well for me. However, what I did notice, I wasn't sleeping very well. So I'm like, okay, why am I not sleeping very well? So I went back and looked a little bit further, like, okay, well, most women need to have a little bit heavier carb load in the afternoon or with your last meal, because you do need those carbs. And I need to have a few more carbs than my husband did. My husband thrived on keto. He absolutely loved it once I could convince him to try it. But so that's what I'm saying, is that don't sit there and say, oh, keto just doesn't work for me, because I could have. I would have been like, my husband was losing weight and I could called him all sorts of names and said, you jerk. But that wasn't what the case was. It was like I had to look like, why wasn't it specifically working for me? And I discovered as a woman, again, menopausal woman, I had to tweak it a little bit. And once I tweaked it, I was like, oh, it was working just fine for me. And I was sleeping like a baby and all sorts of things. So don't ever just throw everything out. Kind of just break it down in little pieces and figure out what part's working, what's not working. And that's that evolution where you continue to be your own detective. And then you finally get to that sweet spot of the mix that works for you.
That's so powerful. And I think I see us, my futuristic, your futuristic, I see us kind of transitioning. You know, the keto thing was kind of hot, still is, in the last 5 years. And then now you're hearing about all these nutrients for that, your neurology, for your, brain. And then I know that you talk a lot about really, living in longevity and continuing, like you said, when you gave us your futuristic story of being the grandmother that was still doing all the obstacle courses. So I think a lot of it is really being ahead of, knowing yourself. But I'm hearing you say also be willing to try some things and see what's working and not working. Don't be afraid not to try something. And is that true? Is that what you're saying as far as trying something?
Yeah, absolutely. Be willing to try it. But here's the other flip side of it, though, is don't be so willing to throw it out if a little piece of it's not working. I think, again, and this is, and I'm of it as well too. I want the easy pill. I want the easy thing that's going to just make it like, just let me just do this one easy button and I'm good. I don't got to do all this work. Like, I hate cooking. I will tell you flat out, I hate cooking. So, anything that I can do to make it easy, like those sheet pan recipes are like the best thing ever. But, you've got to, instead of saying, okay, well, this diet doesn't work for me because I don't like this one element of it. It's okay if you don't like that one element, like I don't like to do a lot of cooking. So how can I shift that to where I do bulk cooking? So that's what I do. I do bulk cooking, and we freeze and we put stuff in, and I do that every like 4 or 5 days. So I don't have to be in my kitchen every night, because that's not who I am. And it's not been how I've been able to do things with a corporate life and busy kids and all that kind of stuff. So it's tweaking it and finding the little things that are going to work with you, and not throwing it all out, and not also chasing after the easy button, because your health is a journey. It's not a destination.
That's true. What do you think about, my husband and I watched things about the Blue Zone, the whole Netflix, and we actually tried the diet for about a month, and he lost a ton of weight. And I didn't. Same thing. It was his testosterone and my, I was like, what happened here? We enjoyed it, but we also thought it was a lot of work, and it was something, but we took some things from it that we added to our diet, right?
Yeah.
Like sourdough bread. We'd always stayed away from bread, but sourdough bread became something we started eating, fresh sourdough bread after that.
Yeah.
So there's things like that I love. And I think that's a great message that you're sharing, Kelly, is, don't throw everything out, but learn from it, learn what's working, know your body. So as you created this book, and as you think about the target market for this book, who is the person that you think would get a lot of information from this book, and what do you want to make sure they take away?
So I guess really my personal target audience is midlife women, 40 plus, much like me, I will tell you, and I start off with a book as well too, I am not a natural born athlete. Like, I wasn't some sort of star athlete in school or anything like that. In fact, I tried out for the basketball team, well, kind of, but I talk about that in the book. Didn't quite make it. Anyway, so, I'm just an average woman. And I think that's the biggest thing. What I find so interesting and almost kind of disheartening is that when we're out on the course, I see more men out there than women. And I would love to get more women out there. And what I would love to have women take away from this book, not just for your personal life, but also in your physical life, is to try things and to not be afraid to get dirty, not be afraid to get muddy, not be afraid to fail. I talk a little bit about in the book about my discovery and persistency. And in there's a little bit that I talk about regarding battling my fears. And, my fears of failure, my fears of, looking like crap when I do something, not doing it as well as everybody else, not being able to do some of the things on the course that other people can and other ladies can. Like, I still can't do monkey bars. Like, I've never been able to do monkey bars, and I can't climb a rope. My goal this year is to try to climb the rope. I'm going to find somebody to teach me how to climb a rope.
So what do you do when you can't climb a rope, or you can't do you just go around it, or do you?
Yeah, like in a Spartan, you do a penalty lap or you do burpees.
Oh, okay.
So I end up running probably like at least a couple miles extra.
Wow.
Because I think I figured out of the 30 obstacles on the beast, I think I walked around 5. So, but I think I would love to get more women out on the course. And my goal eventually is to build a kind of a workbook and like a 12-week program where we end up on the course. So that's my ultimate goal with this book, is to just bring some more ladies out there with us and just have fun. Like, one of the biggest thing I think we have to learn as women, because I think we get a little too hard on ourselves, is we need to learn to look at things and be like, okay, that was kind of funny, instead of like, oh gosh, I sucked, and like all those negativity things that come in. Because I mean, I do it too, but I have to take a step back and be like, okay, really, that was kind of entertaining if you really ask me about it. And I try to find a way to just look at it a little bit differently. And that's kind of reframing. And that's what I hope to. In each of the chapters in the book, I give you ask you a few questions, give you the lessons from the book, and then some questions that you can do to take on a task or an obstacle that you have in your own life. So we talk about family, raising kids, because we all know that's fun. I mean, it's a great time, but sometimes you're going, okay, what did I sign up for? And then, business, working with your colleagues, all that kind of stuff, because there's all sorts of little things in life that you have to find your way over. And so besides just getting more women out on the course with me, I would love to do that, is also just taking these obstacles and taking each one of these chapters and kind of figuring out, okay, how can I use this and get over this obstacle I have in my life, my personal life, business life, or whatever, and then giving you some positive strategies to do so.
Okay, so Kelly, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite or most memorable moments from the obstacle course that, and you're smiling, that you want to share? Just a moment that happened during one of these obstacle course events, and then how do you relate it back to your life?
So I think the one that actually got me to write the book was this wall called the Continental Divide, and it's almost a 14-foot wall that you have to use a rope to climb over. And the first time we got to the wall, my husband it was right after it was the first obstacle course he did after his surgery. And you have to climb over the 7-foot wall to get into the pen to start with, which is just crazy. This is called Conquer the Gauntlet. Anyway, long the short of it, he tore his bicep on that first wall.
Oh no.
So we didn't know of it till later, much later. But anyway, so we get to this big 14-foot wall, and he can't climb it because he doesn't have use of his left arm. So I get up there and I start to climb it, and I'm literally hanging from this rope on this wall. And I ease myself down and I look at him, and he's like, do you want to try it again? I'm like, no, I'm good. So I used his injury as my excuse to not climb the wall. So there's one lesson right there. So how many times do we use somebody else as our excuse not to do something? Second time we got to this one, a year later, his biceps, recovered, not fixed yet, but it's at least recovered. So he gets over it. I try to climb. So he's waiting at the top for me. I try to climb. I get stuck at the same spot, have to ease myself down. I look at him. He's like, are you going to come up here? Like, come on, I'm waiting for you. So I get up there and I get stuck on this chicken wing and I cannot get myself over. I'm like literally hanging down the dang wall.
Oh my God.
So he kind of like pulls me over it. But I was so pissed because I'm like, I got to conquer this wall. Like, have you ever had that thing in your life?
Yeah.
You're like, I have got to get over this thing. But I couldn't figure out, like, there was nothing in me that was like saying, well, I have to do it. There was nothing in me that was just except for the fact that my desire to get over the wall. So the third race, we're there with our kids. So our daughter was 12, our son was 15, and they're old enough to get to do the race with us. And my son and my husband go over to the other side to climb the wall. So they left my daughter and I over on the side where the rope goes all the way down. So I go up. She tried it, didn't make it. I go up there, and I finally, after a couple attempts, I get up to that chicken wing spot again, and I'm sitting here asking myself, going, what the heck am I doing? Like, what kind of crazy lady am I? I am sitting up here, hanging on this freaking wall. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, just ready to completely give up on myself. And then I hear from right below me, my daughter go, you got this, Mom. And everything changed.
Wow.
My purpose for getting over that wall was no longer me. It was about getting her over it. So super Wonder Woman strength, whatever the case may be. I don't know whether I kicked the guy next to me. I got my leg up and over it. I just literally rolled myself over the top of that wall. Because in that moment, it clicked. It changed for me. It wasn't about me getting over the wall. It was about her. I tapped into my purpose. And I talk about that there's power in your purpose. When you really figure out what your purpose is, and it can be big or it can be small. But what my intention was, or when I was reflecting back on that wall, I realized, I was like, it wasn't just getting her over the wall, which she got over. We were up there at the top to get her over. Another guy came up and helped me get her over as well.
Wow.
So she succeeded in getting over the wall. But it was more about really just honing in to what is my purpose as a mom? Why am I here? What kind of mom do I want to be for my kids? And what I realized was, it's okay for our kids to see us struggle. In fact, they need to see us struggle. I think, we come from the generation where our traditional parents, you didn't see any struggle. Yeah, like they didn't, we didn't know what life was really about until we got thrown out there. And then they're like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, what the heck? But, the kids need to see us struggle. They need to see that life isn't always easy, but they also need to see us pick ourselves up and succeed and try and not give up. And that's also a very key point about that as well, too, is that, it was also very important. And why my book is done is that I had my cheerleading section of my family going, okay, Mom, how's the book coming? How's the book coming? So, it was really more, when you find what you're doing it for, when you find what it means and what your impact is on others, and knowing that you do impact others, especially others very close to you and your family and in your coworkers and all that, people are counting on you. They're looking at you. They're looking towards you. They're looking up to you. All of those things are really, really important. And I think that was the biggest thing that I tapped into, and what really got me to say, okay, there is so many other beautiful lessons that we've learned on these obstacles. But that was probably my biggest and my favorite one, and just the one that makes me remember, okay, why am I doing this? It's for my kids and it's for my family.
That's such a great story. Such a great story. I have a funny question. Did your husband and son go on, or did they wait to see if y'all were getting over the wall?
No, they did. They actually got over. They went and decided to go run up, because one of these were the rope was a little bit higher up and you have to run up the wall and grab it. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm going to come over here where it's touching the ground and I can start here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they got over, and we've got a picture of all of us at the top, because they put this is when it was at Post Ranch in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they put it at the highest point, and which is actually really, really pretty, because if you stop and look, you saw like all of Tulsa. It was a really, really pretty place to put it. But yeah, no, they waited for us.
That's good. And so are they still doing the obstacle courses with y'all today?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, our son, he did the trifecta with us in October. He came down from he goes to school in Kansas. So our daughter couldn't because she tore her ACL playing lacrosse this last spring. So she was really bummed. But we've got tickets we did the Spartan Pass, so we've got the tickets to do it next year. So we're just trying to figure out when we can get it on the calendar.
What a great, fun thing to do as a family. I mean, just
it
really
is.
challenge yourself. But I think it's also inspiring others as you think about what you can do, and bringing your purpose into everything, and how we are the sum of the people we hang out with. So your daughter's been watching you and your husband do this for probably years, and then just being there to encourage you in that moment was probably just just kind of a light bulb of like, okay, I can do this. So I love that story. That's great. Well, as we get ready to close out, is there anything coming up for you that we didn't talk about today that you want to make sure our audience hears? These are women and men in the workplace that are difference makers, and a lot of them are corporate leaders, and a lot of them are coaches, and just hearing stories of inspiration of things they can do to help keep to purpose and transform their lives. So is there anything else that's coming up for you that you want to make sure that people learn about from your work?
Well, yeah, I appreciate you giving the opportunity. So through my individual coaching and because I was actually a financial coach for a while as well too, and I still do that. I have put together a program that's basically a wellness plan, like you would a financial plan. So it's not product driven. It's really more strategy, analyzing, and planning to help connect the dots. What's really kind of interesting, I don't know if you know this, but the wellness industry as a whole, and I think because we've got lots of corporate people here, is going to be about an $8.3 trillion wellness industry by the year 2027. So if you think about it from that standpoint, we are going to be bombarded with products and bombarded with all sorts of marketing and promises and all sorts of stuff, which some of it good, some of it bad. Right? Not so much. So it's really working. The program is to really work through people so they can hone in on what it is they really want to do, and then work through ways know what they are looking for when they're looking for a program or product to be able to help them meet their goals. I think we're kind of at that point now in the wellness space where having more of a strategic plan to attack your wellness is going to be very, very beneficial.
And to have a coach along the way that's going to keep you accountable. And it's interesting when you started talking about your financial, because before you spent 25 years as a financial advisor?
Yeah.
And probably the tools and the talent you used to do that is now being transferred into this wellness program. So I think that's fabulous. And I do think being authentic and being ourselves and getting out there and be real, because AI is going to increase as well, and so there's going to be more computer bots telling us things, and so getting out there and telling the real stories is real important to me, and making sure that people hear the wellness and then have a human walking alongside them through the journey. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. I think all of us could just use a little guidance every once in a while for lots of different things in our lives.
I used to love that saying that everybody needs a coach, because we all do, at different times in our life for different things. So I'm so glad we got to have you on the show today and share your wisdom with us. And thank you for just being out there and being a difference maker and making an impact in the world and in your family's world as well. So we look forward to reading your book and following you. So thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed this. I appreciate it.
You have been listening to Dominate Your Day podcast. If you're ready to transform your life and workplace from the inside out, go to danawilliamsco.com and set up a discovery call. We would love to connect with you and equip you with some helpful resources. Thank you for listening today, and please take a moment to subscribe to Dominate Your Day wherever you listen.